All right. Hey, Matthew. Welcome to Automate All the Things. I'm excited to have you here.
Hello, hello. How's it going?
I'm
I'm
good.
excited to be
I
here.
Yeah. This is probably so. I'll have to be honest. I think I delayed the newsletter this week. I didn't do one because I feel like we're gonna automate a lot of what I find so painstaking around newsletters. So I gotta say, I'm like
Yeah.
personally excited about this stream. Not that I'm more excited. I want to be equal. I'm not more excited about this stream than other ones, but I'm particularly excited because it's gonna automate a lot of my life. But maybe a good place to start is say hi everyone in the chat. Let us know if you're here. We should have a lot of new faces here who are more Siri experts or Siri shortcut experts. But for folks who aren't familiar with your work, how about we start with a quick intro into yourself?
Sure. And thanks for having me. So, um, where should I start? I guess when I was a boy. No.
That's cool. We got time.
Uh,
Don't worry about it.
I always grew up around technology because my mom was an education technology teacher, and my dad was an engineer, kind of, for Nike. And so, once I got into school, started getting interested in technology and learning sort of productivity stuff, and I used an iPad too in college. So I love I love hearing about people saying like, "Can you use an iPad Pro for school?" It's like 10 years ago. Like,
So I remember in school, like there were like I'm not that old to be honest, but like I remember school before email, and like paper was like this very important thing, right? Like, and I think people now going to school, they like can't imagine a time where everything was paper based. But so now we're probably talking to like all the people who used to be paper based or now are on iPads, and that's who we're trying to help now.
yeah, cool. So basically, that ended up leading into I did social media as kind of my marketing concentration, and that led me to marketing for just different brands. But eventually, I went to go work for Workflow, which was a iOS app that what is now Shortcuts today. Pretty much, we were acquired by Apple like very soon after I worked there, which was very weird and an amazing ride. But basically, it let you connect different things that you're doing on your apps by taking some deeper, like nerdier productivity things called URL schemes and abstracting them into just an interface for connecting things together. And then basically part of what I got really into at the time was APIs, because you could make web requests and things like that using Shortcuts as well, or Workflow at the time. And then once it was acquired and turned into Shortcuts, it got a lot deeper native integrations, and then all of the Siri features and automations and things like that. And so I ended up leaving Apple soon after the acquisition, just because I was kind of working at a small team, and then suddenly you're in the largest company or one of the largest companies. So once it ended up turning into Shortcuts, I decided to start sharing about what I knew about the app, because I wanted to help teach people, and it's still pretty confusing. Like, we got acquired, I'd say fairly early, for just building it. Like, I was kind of trying to build a whole explaining how this all works thing, but basically didn't have time before that all happened, which is great because they accelerated it a lot from just being inside of Apple. But now there's still a lot to teach people. And so one of the whole things that I've been doing this whole time is I've been using Airtable for years to manage my shortcuts, basically, because for a while Shortcuts didn't even have folders back when it was Workflow and everything like that. So I still use more than that. I use it to categorize basically all of my shortcuts in custom ways. And I have shortcuts that take my shortcuts and extract information out of them and stick them into Airtable using the API.
So that's not what we're gonna do today. Like, that is that feels like a very niche need. Like, I need a shortcut to organize. Like, we're not gonna go that meta,
yeah, exactly.
but we are gonna go into like, how could you, Airtable will just be where we end up any information that we're tracking. So I think maybe a good place to start before we dive in. And I'd love to know in the chat, like, who's used Siri shortcuts, like what do you use it for? Let us know in the chat. But maybe for folks who aren't familiar, what is Siri shortcuts? Like, what does it do?
On the most basic level, it is connecting things that you do in your apps and letting you have sort of a one tap button to either perform many tasks in a row or let you choose between a variety of them
Hmm.
and then automate those steps for you. So you're not, especially on your phone, like sitting there trying to tap and like do a bunch of text formatting or something like that would be
Right.
crazy. And so with shortcuts, you can automate it and it'll always be correct and things like that, or save you a bunch of time. But it works on, one of the confusing things is that it does work with almost every app on your phone. So your
Right.
calendar, reminders, your smart home stuff through your phone. And so how you're going to use it really does depend on what you're doing. But there's a general like personal work life split that is the easiest. Like everybody has a personal life the same kind of way, somewhat at least, compared to your work can get more
Right.
specific. But
Right.
I like to do a lot of batch tasks, or I think just set up multiple things at once that I would otherwise not bother doing, and then kind of make my technology do more for me than I do. Spend a lot of time setting it all up, the shortcuts at least. But one of the benefits of being someone who shares shortcuts is you can just get my shortcuts and then you don't have to do all that setup,
Right.
and things like
Right.
that too. So I'm
So
doing
what
a
do you?
balance between teaching people and just giving you good stuff to use, because then you don't have to learn it.
So essentially, you kind of, so if I'm understanding this correctly, you build shortcuts, and with all the time you save with those shortcuts, you teach other people shortcuts, right? So that's
I
your whole
mean,
thing.
in theory, I'd say I probably am not at that point yet because I've spent a lot of time building shortcuts. But I think it's especially, it's not always about time saved. I think a lot of times it is energy or focus, or it
Totally.
can randomize it for you and give you some serendipity that you wouldn't choose otherwise. So I think that's really helpful. And sometimes it is just like batch tasks, like doing, especially for my whole, I mean, it's about shortcuts, but if it was any other work focus, it's just like your inventory basically. And I can batch like 30 tasks at once and get it all done in detailed ways and correctly all uploaded
Hmm.
in just a short amount of time. As opposed, it's pretty much like I wouldn't offer my membership program if I couldn't automate it with shortcuts, because
Right.
it would just take me too much. I'm just not a developer by trade, and so now I can basically make my own apps and get basic into enough of the scripting that it's actually worth it. It's like I can take advantage of the technology. I don't need to hire someone to do it for me, which is, I feel like, what ends up happening a lot.
I'm almost worried you're overselling it, but I'm excited. I'm excited to jump in because honestly, I think like a lot of people, I remember talking about Siri shortcuts or exploring it like in the same way. Why is one second? Can you guys hear my pings? Let me turn that off. There we go. In the same way, I thought about like Slack shortcuts, right? Like it's kind of fine. It's not that cool. I won't really use it. But what you've kind of shown me, I think, or will show us, is like there is this deep integration. So I'm like
Yeah.
really excited to jump in. So
So
what is maybe just start like what are we building today?
sure. And I'll just say, just to address that last little bit, is I think shortcuts can do a lot of stuff, but the big thing is just for me that it was just Apple owns it and was doing so
Right.
with it, and so it touches so much more and
Right.
is just
That's a good
like
point.
instantly the world can use it, and so that's why it's like that small impact in a huge space can make a big difference.
Totally.
But at least today, a very specific thing is we're talking about making a link tracker in Airtable,
Mm-hmm.
because I think one of the things that everybody comes across is you have all these stories and things that you find that are useful, but to put them into sort of a, I always have the phrase like final resting place of where they should go so that you can actually use them later.
Mm-hmm.
I like save them for Instapaper or reading list and then never actually get to it. And there's all this other categorization that I could do. And so we're going to use shortcuts to basically, when you're on an article or something like that in the share sheet, you can now have a shortcut, send that link into Airtable using the API, because there's no native sharing mechanism. Or I guess Airtable actually does have a little bit, but shortcuts you can automate more on top of it, especially, and get deeper results right away, which was cool.
Awesome. All right,
And
I'm excited.
for mobile especially is the big thing.
Yeah, because there is no mobile web clipper.
Yeah, exactly.
So as someone who, spends their day on the phone, finds something cool, is like, oh, this would be really cool, my newsletter next week or whatever, or I should read this. And there's like no good way. And this sounds like the most first world problem ever of like being like, to save it to this thing where I probably may never go back to it, but I feel good being like, I will read this later. Right. And read later on mobile, I never go there, and like it's just not somewhere I find myself. So okay, let's dive in. I'm gonna start sharing my screen here. This is where I'm gonna share my screen with you. All right, I'm getting better at this. All right, folks should see my base. You should see my base. All right. So some folks, Penny says that they share links with themselves in email, which is such a clunky workaround. So hopefully, Penny, our goal for today is to like get you onto iOS shortcuts as the best way. So let me just start. We'll start with the base overview. I think we've done what is Siri shortcuts, but then we'll go into like the iPad and show what Siri shortcuts is. We'll build a web clipper with the Airtable API, and then we'll introduce shortcutify as as a way of automating a lot of the work that we're going to do. And I'd love to know, like in the chat as we're building, let us know what shortcuts you would like us. Is there a source like Twitter or Facebook or whatever where you're clipping information from? And I'm gonna kind of create a running list of that, and we have time at the end to like play around with what's possible. Cool. Does that make sense for you, Matthew?
Yeah, totally. And I was just gonna say, we're gonna show you how to use the API. And then we're going to show you Shortcutify, which lets you not have to use what you learned just then, but by learning it, it'll make the second half a lot easier too. So it's kind of like a how-to basics, and then the quicker way to take advantage of it faster, which will be good too.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. So base overview, I have the most simple base here. I have links, which is just literally like the title. Right, so the title of the article, that's probably like something we'll either highlight or metadata. We'll figure out how we get the title. It's not that simple. Then the link, word count. Maybe we'll calculate the time that it takes to read. Maybe we will get there. Maybe not. I don't know. You're looking at me, Matthew. Like
it's broken actually. If you can see that those are empty, I think the shortcuts action isn't working right. I mean, that's okay. We could do a workaround if we want to get to that too. But
that's okay. That's okay. And then when we built it, and then. What we'll do, what I like to do, and I'm purely being selfish here, is I want to be able to associate this with a newsletter that I'm writing. So if I go into here, I want to be able to, like, newsletter 3 doesn't have any links. Let me add them in. And we'll do that on the back end. There's some Airtable functionality that makes this really easy. And yeah, that's it, right?
Cool.
That is our base, super simple. And our goal is to go from an article to, so an article I'm reading on my phone, on the iPad, into this base. So that's our goal for today. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool.
Already. Looks like other people are too.
Boom. All right. So I'm here. So this is going to be really hard for me because I got to like manage two screens here, but I'm here. Everyone should see my iPad. Where do I even start? So where do I even start for shortcuts?
Okay. That little icon in the bottom right. Yeah, that shortcut thing there.
Okay. What am I looking at? Can you guys hear me okay?
So, yeah, you're good. It looks like your sample shortcuts. You know what? Is yours up to date?
Do I need to update it?
No,
that's okay. I can update it.
I can't tell. No, I mean, it would take a while. I think it doesn't, the functionality hasn't changed. I'm just curious because normally there's folders and things like that. So your iPad might be out of date.
That's okay.
But
that's okay.
Yeah, it's all good. Actually, this functionality has been in since Workflow, and
perfect
is one of the like secrets. So here you're looking at the My Shortcuts view, which is just your collection. In that middle tab there's automations, which is how you could set stuff to run at a certain schedule, which is pretty cool.
Got it.
Or to do the home automations there too. And then the gallery on the right is a bunch of examples. Those right there are things that you've done recently on your iPad that could be turned into actions from different apps. And then there's a bunch of collections there too. And I actually
you can see
most of these back in the day.
Oh, those little. Oh, that's cool. You can see how
Yeah.
often I use my iPad because it still has like latest flight information. I haven't flown in like 10 months, but it's aspirational. It's aspirational.
And I mean, one of the nice things about iPad, I'd say, is that it syncs over to your phone, so you can like
Right.
build this in the big screen and then use it
Right.
on your phone. So back in the My Shortcuts view, we'll just start making a new shortcut there in the bottom right. Yeah, you are on the. I think you're on iOS 13 still, because this is all on the right side. Otherwise.
Oh, really? I should have.
Yeah,
I should have.
Yeah,
The functionality is there.
Yeah, it's
I'm one of those laggards. You know, they say like 99% of people update within 6 months. I'm that person who's like, iOS 13 is cool. I quite like it. I'm like, you know.
The big thing with shortcuts was they added folders, and I have like hundreds of them, so
Right.
I hated it. I was like,
Right.
give it to me
That makes
the
sense.
second it was available.
That makes sense.
So basically, at the very beginning here, I just realized we made these ahead of time just to make sure that we can recreate it.
But he
so
means
you
Matthew built it.
Yes.
I have no idea how to build any of this.
So the main thing that in order to interact with an API in shortcuts, you have to have the URL of the endpoint that you're trying to get to, and
Right.
then you make the request using the action called get contents of URL. And so
Okay.
in the web category, I believe, I just realized I don't necessarily know which ones they're in. Yes. If you scroll down on the left, the bottom right underneath or to the right of sharing. And I was going to say, this is going to be interesting describing it.
Go for it.
Yeah, just type in URL. That's probably easier. Yeah, that one there, underneath the actions list on the left.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
Get contents of URL.
Both URL and then get contents of URL.
Okay, so I'll start with URL.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
What is?
It'll go away.
What is like URL? What does that mean? Like, is it
It's
say
a
just
link.
go to that URL?
Yeah, this is just a placeholder for you to type in. We're gonna basically put in the request there, and then it's a way to just sort of store a link in a certain format as opposed to just a text format, and then shortcuts can know that it's supposed to be like if you do URL and then open URLs, it will take that link and open it for you.
Got it.
This is very interesting because shortcuts is very literal sometimes. And like this is just an empty container. I also have, I think, for APIs, I have a specific reason I do this, as opposed to you could just use the get contents of URL action and you don't need to like store it ahead of time. But sometimes web requests can get a little messy, and so giving it a little bit more space is helpful.
So this is a variable. This is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. So
exactly.
it's a variable
just
that
an
will be
empty
the
container.
API URL.
Yeah, and especially an important thing to know about shortcuts is every single time you use an action, it's automatically stored as a variable. It's called magic variables. And so you'll see later in a second, you can go back and grab that URL just by referencing the variable URL and not the actual content of it.
Okay, got it. So here we're going to put the URL of the Airtable endpoint.
Yeah.
Just okay, so should I go there now? Is that where I should go?
Sure.
Okay. Oop.
Oh no, is it trying to redirect you?
I think we're good. Here we go. This is my let's go into newsletter table.
Actually, yeah, okay. And then go to list records. So if you scroll up a little bit, and just for, I don't know, in case anyone doesn't know, this is all based off of the data that we created in the base before it. So that's one of the reasons I love Airtable's API is it uses your real data, not some sample data that doesn't make sense to you. So in there, under the example request, where it says curl, and then it gets the whole API /app/ newsletter, grab that whole link, and that's what we're going to put in. And you don't need the part about Mex records. Yeah, just the top part.
Right. So for folks who are not familiar with API, it's kind of cool because I can highlight it there, but then talk about it here on the screen. So this actually makes sense. So this is essentially the endpoint, right, for the newsletter. This is saying, okay, this is unique to your Airtable base, not the newsletter. And so if we move actually to like retrieve a record, create records, and other endpoints or things we want to do with the API, it'll always start. And this I'm trying to point at my screen, but you'll like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'm like here. So this is what I mean is like they will always start by newsletter. And what Matthew is making us do is put it into a URL variable that we can then kind of say like, okay, if we want to create a record, use that URL and then kind of use the create record action.
Where you can see that if you go back to I think it was how it says curl and then in quotes there's a URL. That's just what we're doing in shortcuts exactly the same way. We're putting the URL in, and then the next action in back in shortcuts, you can literally type curl and it's called get contents of URL, and it's just a renamed version of the same thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go back into shortcuts and I'm pasting and then this is my endpoint. Can I just do next? Can't name this anything.
Actually, you know what? We need links because that's the newsletter one. If we're adding to the link thing first, versus this is if you were adding a new newsletter. So just replace the word newsletter with links. Yeah, and back in there, I think we were just looking at the wrong spot.
Oh, you're totally right. You're totally right. Okay, list records.
But it's like almost the same.
Yeah, you're totally right. So I'm terrified of making mistakes on the stream because a lot of people come for that. So I'm going to copy paste.
Yeah, I mean, copy and paste is very intelligent.
Okay, let's remove this. All right, how am I handling that? How are folks in the chat? Is this double? It feels okay for me. I don't know about y'all, if this looks fine for you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would be flying through it, so.
Okay.
That's just giving it a name. So the next action... So those 8 categories there on the left, go into the web one that's light blue on the bottom. I'm pointing also. That doesn't help.
Yeah.
And maybe hide the keyboard also because it's just like taking...
How do I hide the keyboard? Oh, right there.
Bottom right button there, yeah. So there's get contents of URL and the web requests. And just you can tap on that to add it to the bottom, or you can click and drag it in, or tap and drag.
So we want get contents of URL.
Yeah, it's got the green icon. Yeah, there it is.
Boom. Okay, so this is saying we're actually going to hit the endpoint, but right now I have no authentication.
Yeah. Tap show more.
This shit.
Magic is in here. Yeah.
No way.
This action. So this is the way that you do the different types of web requests. And for anybody, see, this is.
So I had not prepared this stream, and I had not. I was not expecting like a
top down.
Yeah, because I was not expecting like. I remember discovering this in Zapier and being like, "Oh my god, this is going to change my life," but I didn't realize that this was. My god!
Through get, post, put, patch, and delete. Also, the parameters
Whoa.
Change. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's like people don't realize that you can do full web requests through shortcuts. Like,
this is what this.
You were like, "Am I gonna have to type code?" And I was like, "No, this is it. This is the code." Like,
dude, this is dope.
I love your face. This is awesome. I love it.
I gotta say, because I was like, I'm sorry, I do prepare for these streams, but you said like, "Oh, you're not gonna like, it's gonna be like a proper API call," and I was like, "There's no way." In like somewhere deep in Siri shortcuts, there's this like. Super powerful. So this is like on parabola level. I remember discovering parabola and being like, that's a really cool tool. This is like just there in terms of what's possible. So, okay. So we are going to,
you can like make these requests with your AirPods or HomePod and things like that. It's crazy.
I can't have another hobby, Matthew. Like I can't, I don't have
videos. It's fine.
Right. So
just this video alone is going to be it. So
yeah. So I imagine like, okay, what that means is for us to create a link, we want to create a post call to this, right? Yeah. Right. So there's a question in the chat.
A get would be to pull the newsletters.
Right. So for folks, get, post is to send. Put is to like it's like to delete. It's like change, or patch is change. Put is
They can, yeah.
Put and patch can be destructive. Put we can check in the docs.
Remember. I think put is destructive. Patch fixes.
Right. Patches. Yeah. Exactly. So patches update and put, you're replacing what you're updating with the data. So there's a question from Alex. If you go to the YouTube automate all the things the stream is always archived there the next day, so you can watch it back.
Alex,
cool.
by the way, I used to do a podcast with them.
Oh, awesome.
So they're my homie.
So yeah, let's do it. Okay, so I'm like, oh, I hid. I gotta remember to show you guys. There we go. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're gonna do now. I'm like taking over. I know how to do this. I feel like
Yeah, good. I'm glad.
So we're gonna do a post call, and then headers. We gotta put the key, right? So the variable will be API.
This is one of those ones that I just learned because they told me how it works, and then I now have repeated that since my team. You just write the word authentication. I think it has to be capitalized too, or no, authorization. My bad. It might specify this in the API as well. And this is yeah, there's.
Okay, and then I need to put in my API key.
Yes, but you have to put the word bearer first.
Right, so we can see this right here in the documentation. So we're saying this is the header that you need. So we're gonna put in this.
Translating that to the like fields of shortcuts, it can sometimes be a little bit odd, I think is what it is.
Right. So we don't need the two dots. Right?
Exactly.
But we do need
the space before bearer. It's just
bearer
and then space API key.
Okay.
And
okay, let me go get my API key.
I was going to say you could store it somewhere else and then as a variable and then pull in just the key variable as well if you want to make it more accessible.
Okay, I got to go to airtable.com.
Tap show API key in the top right there.
Oh, right, show API key. Nice.
You can just copy it.
I can copy the
and don't steal his data while we're doing this before we can change it.
Okay. There we go. Cool. Okay, and then the body. So let me think through this. Let me go here to the documentation. It's kind of cool that I can code on my iPad. And then, okay, this is where I need your help, right? Because we want to send, so we're going to send one record at a time, right? So create records. Mm-hmm. This is actually the actual call that we're doing, right? And we want to a single record object, right?
Yes. Which is sometimes weird. Shortcuts has a weird problem sometimes of if it's expecting an array and you get a single object, it will make it into a single object. And I have a whole fancy way of like adding in a second thing and then deleting it later just so that it thinks it's an array. But we'll get to that too. So
okay, cool.
Yes. Okay. So I'm looking.
Let me talk you through how I understand this, and you'll tell me if I'm right. So we're essentially going to have to put in, this single element array, if you will, which is just an object, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to say, okay, these are the fields we want to write, and how are we going to get this like metadata, right? So the google.com, right? So now we're creating the shortcut that sends the API call, but then we need a way to
scrape it.
We need to actually, so that will be in shortcuts as well. So this, we're doing like the second step first, which is call the API call. That. And then the first step is going to be like scrape. There's like some functionality in Siri shortcuts that says scrape this page and then do this API call. And we're going to share the information between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
Cool.
And if we were otherwise, we could have been like pulling the links out with a GET request and you'd still build it the same way.
Got it. Okay.
So we're going to be posting into there.
So I guess I got to copy this fields. So maybe talk me through, let me structure this differently. Talk me through how to create the body.
So there's two ways to do it. One is, I was going to say, the way that I built in the example one, I actually, I'm trying to decide. It's either more complex or easier, depending on your definition.
Everything is easy.
All the information above, but if you so right now you're in the request body is in JSON, and so you can physically build it in this get contents of URL action. But if you change it to file, then you can create the dictionary elsewhere in shortcuts and then place it into this request also.
I think we're JSON. We're team JSON.
Okay.
if that's
I mean,
okay.
it's still JSON. It's just not physically in the same action. Let's just do it that way. I think it
Yeah.
probably is easier. I probably made it more complex than it needs to be. So as usual. So we're going to add a dictionary here, and you can tell that that's necessary back in the API request.
Yep.
Because the very first thing is fields, which is itself a dictionary.
Got it.
Yeah,
So let me go into link
table.
and then create records. Okay, so I'll kind of maybe spend a moment. So essentially, this is a dictionary in the sense of like it's defining what fields is, right? So this is what you mean in that, like, if you see we're defining fields as this object right here, right? And we're going to be defining a few of these. We're going to define title and then link, and that's what we're going to pull from the scraper, right? So what you're saying is we first need to define fields.
Yeah, and you can see it actually in the example request below, or the return, because it shows. Can you click back? Yeah, there it goes.
Yeah.
The example response, it gives you back the fields plus the ID of the record and when it was created. So we're just putting in new information so that it can understand it. But Airtable's like data structure requires you like specify the metadata about a record as fields. So
perfect.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I think as we do it, like we don't need to. I think we can do it, and people are like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
So we're saying, if I'm there's like fields is in here, right? That's our key.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Look at me, 2 keyboards. This is very intense.
Yeah.
I got my Mac keyboard. I got my real keyboard. Okay, fields, and then we're adding.
So these are going to be each of the things that we're going to add. So the first would be I think they're all going to be text, unless we did the word count, but I don't think it's working right now. So this would just be title.
Right. So
you have to structure it the same as the column is named. So
right. So we're like this, right? So we're saying link is going to be the first one, and then type. Right. So let me go back here.
Type will do differently, but.
So we're doing, but we don't have to do type. Type is a single select. Yeah. Let's do with link. We can do anything.
Once we get there, yeah. We can do whatever we want.
So link, and here's where we're going to input the link, but how do we make that dynamic?
We'll have to go get that in a second.
So do I just keep it empty?
Yeah, just keep it empty for now. We're basically building an empty request, and then we're going to fill in these fields using other shortcuts. Actions.
Got it. Okay, and so the next one here, just switch keyboards, text, is, let's just go with title. Yeah. And then we'll do the single select at the end. Yeah.
Sure.
Cool. Does that make sense? So we're gonna do the, my brain cannot.
You are switching context a lot, and even
like the
paradigms.
And the stream. Okay, so so we're doing another text. And this one is called link. No, we title.
Title, yeah.
Shift.
Capitalize, yeah.
Title. And I don't need to. I can just click done.
Yeah. Right now, it's just if you try to do this, it just wouldn't do anything because there's nothing in there.
Yeah, it would just create an empty array, I guess, an empty record.
I'm not sure. It might just fail because there's no data.
Right.
That's one thing that is. Even I was saying for like word count, because the second part of that was lowercase, if you got that wrong, it would just fail. And sometimes that is a lot of times I'm like making request after request and then it fails and I'm trying to figure out why it didn't.
It's not that great testing, I'm sure. It's not like very informative bugs. Okay. I'm like so excited about this, by the way. I can see where this is going and I'm really excited. So
cool. Nice.
So
this is a whole request. Like this would work. If we had data in there that you just put in, like, why do
you want to test one? Yeah.
Sure. I was going to say, just put in your name or some, I don't know, whatever you feel like.
Let's go like test.com. Done. Right. Next.
Do a title also, just in case.
Do a title. This is a test. I remember why I threw this keyboard out. It's crap. Okay. So next.
Yeah, I guess you have to give it a name before it'll show you the play button. Send to Airtable. Nice.
Okay. Done. Okay. So
go back into it. It is weird. It tries to make sure you at least give it a name once. Oh yeah, you're running it now. But if you tap on the triple dots, it'll open up. And I think you just sent the request.
Dude,
Should
are we
check
ready?
back in the base. Yeah.
How confident are we? I don't know if, dude, this is so
I
exciting.
don't know why it wouldn't.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I know. Like, I know this doesn't feel that important to people.
No,
but
it's
the
so
idea that like this, I can just be like in bed, you know, and be like, that's
It's
interesting.
amazing.
Just gonna send it to Airtable, and like it feels low lift. I was like, it should be able, like the web clipper on the web is so good, but the fact that we can recreate it, I am like super
I will
stoked.
say, I know you are affiliated with Airtable, but I'm not. But I love that. I can get ahead of apps before they're ready to do it. I can just take these, and I really want to like show Airtable why I need a web clipper, because if everybody uses this and it's so useful, it's like, oh, this can prove out the use case that this would be really handy if we. I mean, I do think there's all types of there's like UI problems and things like that you run into, whereas
Right.
shortcuts just collapses that into just lists and picking from them and like a simple unified interface. And so like I'm glad that you're pumped, because this is like
Yeah.
this means the difference between like, oh, I only ever use Airtable on the computer and I can't use it on my phone, to like I can do this all day long. So like this is why people use iPads, because they don't have to be at a desk ever again.
But I have to say, like, if everything was solved, you wouldn't need us. Like, there's this geeky aspect
it's
to
my
building, right? Like, this is right. So, like, we
There's
both
so
win,
much in the
right?
world
We
that
both kind of win
I'm
out
glad.
here.
I'd still rather solve the world's problem and have nothing to do than.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean,
So-
this is exactly why like
This is
videos
dope.
like this do help me get this information out in the simplest way without
This is super dope. Okay.
overcomplicating it.
I'm like really excited here.
It's
So
great
let's
now.
so the next step here, if I'm understanding right, is like actually scrape is not the right word, but like
Yeah.
we're on the URL, we want to get the URL, we want to get the title, and then input it, and then we could play around with type if that's something we want to do. So let me go back here. How do we go back? What's the next kind of step here? How do we actually get the information? This is the international sign for get the information, apparently.
I got the Italian.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's get the information. Okay. So go back into the shortcut, and we're going to turn it into a share sheet.
Whoa. What?
Shortcut. Yeah. So tap the little dots up there again to go into the settings. And then,
Share sheet.
Yes. This is one of those things that
Feels poorly named.
Does anyone know what that is called besides people who work on iOS? Because that's a perfect, I don't know, the share button, like whatever. So this is a way that you can have it. If you deselect some of the, you were tapping share sheet types. If you tap, if you don't want it to ever show up when it's not a link, you can deselect everything except for URLs.
Okay.
And then it won't. But that can be kind of confusing. So let's just
let's keep it on. Yeah.
So now basically whenever you're on a web page and you tap that little share icon,
this is what share sheets means. It means when I'm doing something and I show up in that grid.
Yeah,
that is a very poorly named.
Actually. Yeah.
Okay, got it. That's okay. Cool.
I love hearing this feedback, because it is like all the iOS nerds are like, oh, the like UI composer like stuff. It's like, no, nobody knows what that is.
Okay. I'm not gonna comment on your interpretation.
That's even just
okay.
I'll make fun of my friends all the day long.
So how do we? Okay, so now it's gonna show up. What's the next step here?
Yeah, maybe go to like the sample article. Do you have that on the iPad already? Or okay.
Yeah, let's go into like, I don't know, article. Let's just whatever. Oh, it's gonna give me like a furniture store. Damn it. Recent news.
News.google.com is how I was doing it.
Okay. CBC. I'm Canadian.
Canadian.
Oh, it's an app.
It
CNN. I don't
works
have
on
this.
maps too, so it should be fine.
No,
But
no, 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 no. Let's go.
it's
Okay.
yeah, it's just easier technically.
There
Also,
you
then
go.
I always go, it's like terrible news when you open it up too. It's like, oh
Yeah, of
god.
course, of course. There's no good news these days.
It's,
So,
it's
okay.
sometimes depending on your position. So in the top right there is the little share icon. Yeah, I keep pointing
Okay,
out.
send to Airtable. But now it's not,
Yeah.
it's just gonna take like test.com. That's what it's gonna do now.
Yeah, well, exactly, because we didn't actually set it up to do anything with that. This is
Right.
just
Okay.
to demonstrate this is where it is.
Got it.
So back in shortcuts, we're going to basically have to get information out of that input from the beginning. And so this is also one of those things that, like, I don't know, honestly, you would never really figure out on your own unless somebody kind of showed you this. So that's why
It's good for your
I'm gonna
job.
show you this.
Yeah.
So I'd say what we need to do now, in the simplest way, sometimes when you share something from the share sheet through the share sheet, it puts like the title of the article also, and that can kind of be a pain in the butt. So we're going to try to get the URLs only. So
Okay.
we can either go back to the web category or just type in get URLs from input.
Get.
And there's a
URL
series of
from
actions
input?
in short. Yeah. There's a
And I put
series
that
of,
at the
like,
top,
get
right?
from input. Yeah, exactly. And see there, the shortcut input is the magic variable is already associating it with the thing above it. This is what's cool about shortcuts is
Oh, got
when you
it. So
put two actions together, it will try to take its best guess at how they should work together, which saves you a lot of steps of manually connecting each one.
okay,
See,
got it.
actually,
So
you're
there's
looking
some
at the
other
fancier
metadata.
undersign. Yeah, like you could actually, I was choosing not to do this just to specify, but if you tap the as text thing right there, you could just get the URL only. See the type there, URL, just one
Oh,
below.
got it. So it's like a variable with a lot of information in it that I
Yeah.
can then
This is the
that comes
content
from the input.
Yeah.
Right.
That shortcuts works based off a technology called the content graph, which is where they
Right.
determined all of the different types of content that are possible on iOS and hooked the APIs together underneath. So this is how shortcuts works, is that it can like just know, oh, when you get a photo, there's text associated with it. That's the title. So get the title from this or whatever.
Okay, so this is saying get URL. So this variable, sorry, I'm pointing. So this right here will get us the URLs from shortcut input, which has all of this other information that we could potentially use. That's not what we want.
Yeah, not
right,
this time. But
okay.
any because shortcut input is just like a blank content type. It could be
it's
any
like
one
everything.
of those.
Right. Okay,
But,
got it.
The way, there's multiple different ways you could approach things with shortcuts sometimes. These, like using the action get URLs from input is sort of the original way that workflow is built. And then those magic variables are something that we added on top so that you could, like people who are more advanced could just not bother adding extra steps and just like extract it all in one step, which is cool. So now we're going to
go to
has a built-in article identification system. They used to use, what's the one you probably know? What's the one that's like you call it to get determine whether it's an article or not?
How would I know that?
It's not built in shortcuts. It's oh man, what's it called? I can't remember. It was an old tool that's like used in APIs regularly just to identify. It's kind of like the open graph type thing.
So to identify whether it's a news article?
Yeah.
AMP.
No, that's close though. Dang it.
Does it matter?
To use it. It's like Bitly. It doesn't really matter, but Shortcuts has its own way that we added later. So there was like a common way that's like, man, I can't remember what. I don't know why. It's just like on the tip of my tongue. So in the web category there, again, the light blue one, there's going to be more Safari actions. In the second, just type in, there it is. Type in article, actually. So get article using Safari Reader is what we're going to put after get URLs. So now this is going to use Apple's like proprietary system to identify those elements of an article, like the title and things like that, just from the URL.
Got it. So it's
So
taking
now
the
there's
URL, sending it to the get article, right? So it's going to get the metadata, and then that outputs available information we can use in future steps.
mm-hmm.
Got it.
Just to show you, why don't we do get type in article again into the search field, and then there's get details of article, I believe it is.
Yep.
Yeah. And then this is another example of this is an action that extracts data out of that. But also, if you tap on the word article, you could get the same type of information. So like
Got it.
all of that, tap on
Number of
now on
words,
detail
image.
on the left. We're going to do the same thing.
Dope.
Just like directly. Yeah. See, this is why, I was like, this is.
But it's not very intuitive.
Yeah. So this is the more intuitive way is using get detail from article. So tap on that. And then this is a.
Oh, yeah, that does make sense.
But
okay.
But part of it is you start to have to go linearly, like, because if we're going to get the title, then we have to go save the title and get it again. And that versus
that's kind of stupid.
If you go just from the article, we can get all of the information from one.
Got it. Okay, so do I want to delete this one, or we want to keep this in place?
Yeah, let's just delete it. I think this is probably easier than
okay.
trying to do it linearly. So go into fields now, and in the title, or link or title, whichever one you want to do. Do you see in the bar right there the word article?
Right.
If you tap that.
Right here.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. It's my brain is melting. So go here, article, and then I want
now
the
you can
link.
just get the link out. Yeah.
URL. This is dope.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about this. I don't know, like I am.
We can add more fields if we want. That if it's all available in there, it's super.
Man,
it's relatively easy.
Trust me, when this stream ends, I am gonna automate so many things. Right? Like
we'll have to do another one to see what you built
for sure.
Because
because this like you can do webhooks, right? So I can just like send webhooks, and I could be like, oh, okay, let's get into title. So we're gonna go add article title, and that's it. Like now we're done.
There's a word count option in there. It just didn't work when I tried it. So that's why I was
let's set ourselves up for success. Let's give it a go. And then we'll do the shortcutify stuff, and we'll see what people want to add, and then we can go back to word count because I don't, okay, this is done. So let me just oh fuck.
Yeah. It's not
I just sent anything. A bunch. Yeah.
Or you're doing wait, you can see what it does. It might have created I see two new rows.
Yeah, I think it just created empty ones. Let me check. Yeah, I just created empty ones.
Yeah, okay.
So let me just walk people through what's going on here. If my understanding, you'll tell me if I'm right. Right. So it gets the URL from shortcut inputs, and then from that does this like Safari unique analysis to get all the metadata that we then need. Then we call this API point, and in that API point, we use information from this get article. So it's almost like article dot link, article dot title.
You can use that in shortcuts in a different way, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Exactly. So it's like a dictionary essentially.
Yeah.
And now, so if we go to any article, clicking done here, I'm coming here, I click here, and then I go into
this one. It does look like a weird post, but it should work.
What would be a better one?
I think I just mean never mind. Ignore that.
You got to believe in yourself.
Republican Senator Thune says impeachment. It's because it's like a live update page, so it might pull some different metadata. But see, now it's scraping the article, which might take a second sometimes.
Dude, that is so dope.
It just made it. Did it?
Let me say, did it work?
I don't think it worked. Oh no, there it
is. It did. Dude,
we're good to go.
We got to give a success on that one. We got to give it a success. I'm pretty. And so I'm this is dope. This is really cool. So we already, Penny's excited. Let me know, like, I'm so excited about this because.
Yeah, that's good. Can I show you a way to make it not fail in a different way? In addition to it, so that you can run it without it being from the share sheet, or should we move on to the next one?
Tell me more. I'm intrigued now.
If you put in an if action into the shortcut and say if the shortcut input has no value, then we can do like a okay, so what should the article be? And you can just paste it in or something. Or it could like grab from your clipboard or something like that.
I'm not so worried about failing.
Okay, sure.
Do you?
At least with this one, it always works. It only works from the share sheet. Otherwise,
I'm
it
okay
would
with
just break
that.
those blank.
I'm okay
Okay,
with
cool.
the
See, this is
because I
was
do
trying
want to
get
do.
fancier.
Yeah, you're way more advanced. I'm
You
like
got to get like
super.
edge cases. And
Yeah,
like,
I'm like errors. Who cares? Like it's an article I wasn't gonna read anyway, so I'm not too worried about it, right? So let's do the shortcutify one though, because I am
Sure.
interested in because I do think like some folks might be like, okay, APIs are fun, but like, is there a quicker path to value here? So let me come back
without
here.
making that web request in the same way.
Yeah. So what is shortcutify?
This is an app made by an independent developer who just identified that apps like Airtable weren't adding shortcuts actions, and so he just made them himself and then
Cool.
said if they have an API key, just put it in my app, then this will just structure those API calls for you and make them.
Okay.
Even like I mean, look at these examples are like Spotify, Google Maps,
Right.
Google Drive. You can control your Mac and turn it on and off using SSH, which is possible in shortcuts also, but it's like a remote control of your,
Right.
you can turn your computer on using Siri, which is really cool.
So let's do the. I'm just so we can
Sure.
show folks how it works, and then I want to spend
Just
a
the
little
Airtable
time like
part.
geeking out on the clipper thing. Okay.
Okay.
So
cool.
where do I
just tap
start?
Airtable.
To just tap Airtable?
I'm pretty sure I haven't used it in a while. So you've already put in your API key.
Yeah, and I've
And
connected
then,
the connected base. Yeah.
Yeah.
The same one we were
For
working out
anyone-
of.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, down there at the bottom, it says Airtable developer portal. That'll open up the same page we were on. And then this app has a special action that says like, scrape this data out of the Airtable base.
Right.
So anytime you change your Airtable, you'll have to reset this up. Just because otherwise it has like old data. But then yours is already connected to the newsletter table. And so we should be good to go.
So where do I go? Available actions.
So back into shortcuts.
It's from
the
shortcuts.
Available actions shows you what it is, but yeah, this will give new actions to shortcuts to let you.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
So let's call this. Can I rename this right away?
sure.
I'm gonna call this send to Airtable
Easy or something.
shortcutify. Sorry, my hands are way too big for this keyboard. It's like one of these
Yeah, no
keyboards.
worries. I've gotten. I've had to get. Oh yeah, exactly.
So okay, and so we
Just go into the apps category now on the top left there.
apps.
And this is where it'll show you any of the apps that you have installed that have actions available.
Oh shit. Okay, I gotta stop swearing
so
on my
he like
screen.
pre-builds these steps for you, which is great.
Insert
so-
record. Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's the same. Yeah, that's what we've been doing is creating a new record.
Ooh, I like it.
Do you
So
know
I want to go
just where you
into
wanna go?
links, number of fields.
So this part is where knowing the API and how it's built is helpful because you have to specify a little bit. So this is all that should just be
So a
text,
title is a
the
text
first
field.
one. Yeah, usually is.
Oh, and then this is what I'm gonna get from. Okay, so we got to do. Okay, let's keep this one blank, and then we also want.
But if that article variable that we used last time would go there.
Right. I can build. I think I can do it. I think I can build this one.
Yeah, exactly.
excited.
This is a lot easier.
I'm independent now. You know.
you don't
know.
even need me anymore.
No, I
Yeah, I'll
always
just
need you,
leave-
Matthew.
I'll, like,
I need
I'm
you.
cool.
No, we're good. No, because I'm gonna mess it up, and then it looks bad. Okay, so so we got column 1. No, I want column 2. Clearly, this person doesn't use Airtable that much for call them columns and insert record, but it's okay.
Yeah,
appreciate-
exactly. It's technically.
So
just a
here
loop
I want
in,
to
I'd say.
choose. Oh, it's not letting me go to column 2 until so.
Yeah,
Let me
you have to
go-
specify which column it
okay.
is, and then the type of data that the column needs, which is
Okay,
specified in the
so
Airtable.
URL. I
It's
imagine that's
usually
text.
all text. Yeah, exactly. It's
Value I don't
itself
specify.
knows that it's a URL, but it just is still stored as text.
Got it. And so here we're gonna go back here. We're gonna go into that URL. Get URLs from input.
Yeah, at the top. Although we'd need to turn it into a activate the share sheet part first before it'll show shortcut input. even though technically you don't need to have it on the share sheet, but I won't specify that edge case.
You're going too deep here. So we want.
I'm almost saying that so that I remember when I rewatch this later. There are like so many little paths to this. Could be like literally like 10 articles worth of content if I broke it down into what is JSON and
Right. You're right. So where?
oh yeah, sorry. You need article now here. Yeah.
Right. Get article. Right. So it's saying like that is that kind of proprietary thing, and we're saying okay, get it from URL. That's gonna make that accessible. So here,
Diffbot is who I was thinking of. Was
article.
the API?
I have no idea what diffbot is. I was never gonna guess that.
I thought it was a common Airtable type thing or like if you use Zapier, you'll usually be like, is this an article? And then get the same.
Oh, I know. I never heard of it. I'll check it out after.
I only knew
so wait.
because of shortcuts. So
I'm clicking through some stuff. So just for folks, so what we did is we're sending the URL from the shortcut input. We're passing it through this proprietary thing from Apple, from Safari that lets us know, like gets us this metadata around this article at the bottom. And now we want to insert that information. Whoops. I messed things up here.
Control Z.
Can I?
Yeah. Or the undo button. But yeah, it's got keyboard shortcuts. Oh, you know what? You're not up to date.
Let's not. Okay.
So
here
you put two values in column one value. It should just be the title.
How do I remove?
Just hit the delete key or.
Okay, got it. So I want. Let me delete both.
Selected. There's a little button on the left usually, but yeah.
So I want article in this one, and this is for the title. So article, I go into title, click done, and then here I want the link.
Yeah.
So I want.
But technically, you could use article or URLs, but yeah, just do article again and get the URL.
Yeah.
And it should provide the like. If the URL resolves to anything, it should get the long link, not the short link. So this should just work.
Done. So let me just like walk people through it. So the difference here is that we don't have to do the API call. Mm-hmm. That's the big difference. Is that here we can only it's like a Zapier type style, right? And that's the big difference. So we started with the hard part first.
Yeah. This guy basically did what Workflow did for complicated URL schemes, and now he extracted some of the more complicated stuff in shortcuts into actions inside shortcuts, like a subroutine that does it for you, basically.
Okay, let's go to another article. Let's go to Google News. Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, it's all this COVID stuff.
Yeah, it's 2021. Okay.
I gotta find like a positive website to check to do this.
Okay, let's go to send to Airtable, shortcutify.
And it won't show this whole interface in iOS 14 either. It's a little nicer.
Dude.
Done.
Oh my God. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah. And so that is like, again, now it only took a couple of steps and not like linking together a web request and building a JSON article out. Right. It's just like, it's still a little hard to know what to put into shortcutify fields. But once you start practicing more, it should get there.
I'm doing confetti again. That's how excited I'm about this. Okay, we're about an hour in.
Sure.
And so let us know. I'm gonna ask you some like things I've wanted to do, and just tell me if they're possible and how hard they are, and we could see whether we want to do it. But let us know in the chat if anyone wants something specific, right? So if it's a certain website, you're worrying about word count, or maybe you want like, you know, some place on the web you're trying to scrape, or maybe you want to do a webhook type functionality. So let us know in the chat. I'm curious if I would be able to say like save tweet.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be easy?
I know how. Whether or not it's easy is a frame of reference, I'd say. Let me look real quick.
But what if I just wanted to save the tweet URL.
Yes, but it won't have a title. So
That's okay.
I think that's one of the problems. It will just say the word tweet. So it could, yeah, you could post it in here in the same way. If you just ran this on Twitter, it will grab the link, but there will be no title. And so you kind of just don't know what it is at that point. I do.
Okay, let's say like this. And then, no, because it doesn't show up here. So how do I... Oh, it's because I'm not in... So what if I click
Wait,
on
you're
that?
not showing what you're doing also.
Oh shit, sorry. There we go. Okay. So now I went on a specific tweet, right, from Amy. And then I could just go... Because I don't have the app on my iPad. So I can do send to Airtable shortcutify. And this works, I imagine, on the app as well. So like if I'm on the app? So if I'm on the Twitter app right now in the browser.
Twitter, yeah, it should. Yeah, and it looks like it went in.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, it doesn't have the title of it.
Okay, but that I can figure out.
I have
but
a
what
way
would
to do that? It's
talk us through it?
I think. The Twitter link itself doesn't have that associated metadata,
right.
but Twitter has a endpoint basically called publish.twitter.com/oembed, and then you can put URL, and then from that you can extract out the information. Yeah, so this is just the web request.
Okay, it's the web request place. Okay, you got it. Sounds like documentation.
Or I think just publish.twitter.com is a way to do it.
So you pass the URL and it'll come back to you information about that tweet.
You basically take your URL, attach it to that link, and then get contents of URL a curl on that, which will basically it's the same thing as going to the web page and entering that information. And then from that, it'll have a dictionary of Twitter data. And out of that, you can extract the author name and things like that.
Okay, so we'll keep that for another stream. Yeah, I think an hour in...
shortcut that does it for you. If I could share that.
Yeah, share it in the chat. So what I'll do, share it in the chat. And what I'll do is within the description of this video, I'll include all of your, where folks can go to, because I don't think everyone wants to be rebuilding these. I will, because I enjoy it. And so I think we'll end it there. I think Matthew, I can't tell you how excited I am to use this. And
that's awesome. I love to hear it.
I am grateful, and I hope folks are grateful as well, or enjoyed this and learn from it. I think what I take away from it is that the fact that I can do an API call just means I can do anything, right? When I think of most tools out there have even Zapier. So I can do a webhook to Zapier, and then I have every tool, right? And so,
I'll say the one limitation is that you can't do it for things that need OAuth. So I can't get my Twitter data because it's not authorization through this. But as long as you have an API key or a open API, which usually isn't the case anymore. But
I agree with you. I think OAuth is this pain that every tool that's relies on API has to hit.
I tried to get the team to add it before we got acquired by Apple, because I was like, it's going to be so much harder afterwards. And so if it had been, we'd all have it now, and the world would have it, and it'd be magic. And I was like, come on.
We'll solve it. We'll solve OAuth for every. So thanks to you, Colleen, Penny. Appreciate you joining. I hope folks go out and build their own kind of shortcuts. And if you do, let us know. So you're at Matt Cassinelli, right? So you're at
MatthewCassinelli.com. Yeah. So it's CASSINELLI.
But your Twitter...
Yeah, Twitter is Matt because of character guys.
Okay, cool. So drop it into the chat and the website as well. And I'll make sure to include it in the show notes. All right. So huge thanks to everyone for joining. And
I will also say... Sorry, just to say, I have a website where I've shared tons of shortcuts like this.
Right.
MatthewCassinelli.com/Siri shortcuts. I have hundreds of examples that you can get for free. I also have a membership program that people can sign up where I do live streams like this and help people directly with their shortcuts and things like that.
Yeah. And probably go much longer and more in depth, as much as we went long and in depth on this one.
You should come on one or something, and let's do another advanced version of this, because
I have ideas, man.
Yeah. Like
I
where you can go pull the newsletters out and then associate it with this record as you're creating it and things like that. It's like I need to
you're
do that more. So let's seriously do it because I want to benefit from it as well.
yeah. No, listen, this is has opened my I gotta say, like I people teach me cool things on the stream, but rarely do someone shows me something and I'm like, oof, I have ideas.
See,
Right. And
this is why I love shortcuts because it's just like
yeah, I
people
think
don't
it's
get
what
that
I
this
think
is possible. And
I think it also speaks to like once you get that layer beneath of APIs and understand how to use them in like these low code type ways, there's really like a world that opens up to you. And I think, if we were able, and I think that's really both of our goals is to make that more accessible.
totally.
Hopefully, some folks from this stream feel like it's a little more accessible, and I hope that's the case. But it does open up a world of opportunities, and I'm excited to have you back or come to your. And I
Yeah.
appreciate everyone joining. Means a lot. With that, I'll sign off. Thanks, Matthew, for joining. Thanks everyone for coming, and be back next week with how to manage your newsletter in Airtable, which is a great follow up on
Yeah.
this, where we're going to build the whole newsletter in Airtable, and we're going to probably curate some links in it as well. All right,
Nice.
bye everyone. Have a good one.